Hello. So this is a bit of a odd video, I guess, for me to make. Normally, I talk about sample libraries and music production, as well as a little bit of music business. But today, we're really 100% kind of focusing on almost the business side of it, specifically the financing. So even if you've never seen any of my videos, and you're just here because of budgeting, I'm not going to be talking about music. I'm not going to be talking about things like that. The only thing I will mention is, well, one of the main reasons I'm doing this is because as a business owner, or even just an individual, and anyone really this day and age, it's really important to keep on top of your finances, to know what's coming in, what's going out, and to budget accordingly. And I'll little disclaimer, I am not an accountant. I've never done any accounting courses. I'm simply a business owner trying to control my own income. But saying that, I have been perfecting this over the last 5 years, putting together this spreadsheet. I'm just going to do a quick overview of what this basically is. So this first little bit you're looking at right now that's on your screen is simply kind of the income section. As you can kind of see, we've got this income, the float, and then our money is divided into budgets. Now there is a second part to this spreadsheet. If we scroll down and go over a bit, I will move my face when I specifically talk about this section so we can look at it as a whole, where we actually see all the money goes down into this section, and this is our outgoings. So this is where you put every transaction you make, which is great. But then we summarize it at the end of each month so it doesn't get too cluttered. And as you can probably see over here as well, we have different accounts. These are actually your cards. So whatever bank or building society you're with, you put what's in there. We have our virtual bank, which is this whole spreadsheet. It's a virtual bank, as it were, and then our actual bank. And then we have some safety things, balances, I guess you could call, here on the side, and total, and this bit here, which makes sure that everything kind of aligns up. You can also do a little profit loss section over here, so it shows your net income versus your outgoings to see if you've actually made money in a month or are losing money. And of course, I'm sure you have a credit card, so we also incorporate that into this. So almost this credit card is almost like a debit card, so it really helps us keep on top of credit cards as well. So that's a very brief summary of what I'm going to be talking about. Let's now go in and actually break it down. Now let's start at the very beginning over here at gross. So gross, if you're not already familiar, is when you get your payslip, it will say gross. This is before tax and national insurance. This is the total amount. This can come in handy. You may be asking, why not just have your net? Why just put that there? Well, you can do if you want. Delete this whole section, but I find it quite handy as a business owner for tax purposes, as well as sometimes you get tax rebates because they overtax you. So this deduction part and breaking it down into two really helps. An advantage to this as well, as you can already see here, this is a weekly chart. So if you get paid weekly, you can do this weekly. If you get paid monthly, you can put it monthly. If you get paid less or more or whenever randomly, I can get paid on really random times, multiple times in a week, a single time in a month. So it really helps to kind of have this on a weekly sort of basis. And you only need to spend, when you get used to it, about half an hour a week, really, and maybe every other week, of course, depending how often you get paid and how much you're spending. So gross, put your gross deductions. So especially if you're Joe Blog and you get your payslip, you'll see tax and national insurance. So simply put a minus in here. This will then work it out automatically. So say I got paid £300 and I had deductions of -50. There you go. Your net is already worked out. Really nice, really simple. And the float. Now this is the in-between bit. I get paid randomly sometimes, so not every week I can put money into individual budgets. So my solution to that was creating a float. So once you've put those figures in, for example, let's change this to £1,000. No, 1,500. which is probably a more realistic sort of gross, I guess, if you're part-time. Deductions, we'll just put minus 250 because the tax man loves to take our money. And so our net is 1,250. I'm going to put £1,000 into my float. And you think, well, I've got 250 left. And actually, if you look over here, this balances it. So that shows me, oh, I still haven't used up all this. And so I normally will put 250 or whatever that figure is left over into savings. And I normally separate my savings from the rest of my budgets, really, because I don't incorporate that into my weekly allowance. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we all have bills we have to pay, and there's a certain amount of money we have to set aside, I guess, each month for those bills. So if we're actually looking in our budgets, we can see I've broken down all my expenditures into these different ones. You can add some, you can take them at your own. Everyone's different. Everyone has different things they like to spend money on. But these are your basics. So I've kind of broken them down into things I kind of have to, fun bits, and then the big bills. So food, everyone's got to eat. Extra, toothbrush, toothpaste, toilet paper, just that stuff that you just have to buy. You're not going to eat it. But light bulbs go, you got to spend money on it. Children, if you got kids, they're expensive. Pleasure, you want to go to the cinema with your partner or whatever. That's where that stuff kind of comes out. Entertainment, your Netflix, your Disney Plus, your PlayStation Plus, whatever entertainment stuff you use. Holiday, we all like saving up for a good time every year. And then car, well, if you drive, it's just a hole in your wallet. Phone, everyone's got a phone, come on. Housing, and this, I incorporate everything into that. So my rent, my electricity, gas, Wi-Fi, just everything to do with the property you're living in, maybe your mortgage. And that's kind of how I break it down. So for a bare minimum, what would I have to earn every week to physically survive? Or maybe it's easier to work it out every month. Let's just go randomly over here for a second. And so let's probably work out backwards. What's something I have to pay first? My housing. So my rent. Let's say my rent is super cheap and £550. That'd be great, right? I look at my electricity bill and I spend £100. What else do we have? Water bill. Let's put 40. Wi-Fi, 25. What am I missing? Oh, yes, the amazing council tax that we all have to pay. How much a month do I? Let's put 150 for council tax. I think that's roughly everything we pay for housing. So what I love about Excel equals sum. Don't have to do any of this in my head. And it comes to £865. So that's my housing bill for the month. And if we divide that by 4, on average, I guess, 4 or 5 weeks, it's better to go for the smaller number than the bigger one and have, not enough. So if we divide that by 4, so let's go equals sum of that by 4, £216 and 65p roughly I will need a week. So let's just put that up here for now. So I will need 625p a week there. And what other bills do I have? I've got to pay my phone bill. Say, an easy figure, we're super cheap and we pay £10 a month for our phone. That's £2.50 a week. My car, well, this is for car. This includes insurance. This includes maybe servicing it as well. This includes maybe problems, or you're going to be saving up for a car. So I kind of put all this into one. You can separate it out, but you can get a lot of budget. So I find including things in one really helps narrow this down. For rough figures, just kind of work out, well, look, how much was your last MOT? How much was your insurance? Add it all together and then divide that by whatever. So let's say, for example, over here, my insurance is £400. My MOT, I always try and put 400 aside. I know you can do your MOT for 25, but half the time, come on, whose car passes the MOT first time every year? I wish mine did. And so I always try and put 400 aside for that. Tax, 150, let's say, for my car. And oh yeah, fuel. Don't forget fuel as well. How much do you spend on fuel a month? Oh, I don't want to know. Um, so we need to add that onto this as well. And then say you want to save maybe £500 a year for a new car, because eventually you're going to have to buy one. 840 roughly on fuel. Let's add that up together and have a horrible number. As I said, cars are just a hole in your wallet. There you go. And then, so that's how much it's going to cost for the year. Divide that by 52. So if we just go over here, equals sum of that. Divide that by 52 weeks in the year. That's £44. Let's just round that down to 44. There. Food. That's another essential one that we kind of have to do. I tend to put about £35. I'm super cheap a week. So let's just put 40, round it up. Extra, about 10, 20. Again, this is, as I said, I've been doing this for 5 years. It's easy to change it. So even if it takes a couple of months for you to kind of roughly get all these figures correct, it takes time. And as I said, from my experience, that this is kind of roughly me. Everyone's situation is different. Children are expensive. Pleasure, £10 a week. Let's do that. £10 a week. Entertainment, that's another easy one to work out. Add up all your subscriptions. If you pay yearly, there you go, divide it by 52. If you pay monthly, I don't know, times that bill by 12 and divide it by 52, etc. Just add up all those bills that you think you have and try and work out a rough cost. I'm going to, for the sake of this video, put 20. Holiday, I'm just going to put 10. And then let's have a look. Let's put equals sum at how much a week I need to make minimum. 382. So I can live off of, for example, for the purpose of this demonstration, £382. So you can see I got paid here. I put £1,000 into my float. For this week, I'm going to take out minus £382 and 75p minus. Don't forget the minus. So we can see we have £617 or 25p left in the float. And then we're just going to go across here and put in all these figures that we worked out. 20. There we go. So we put in all our figures, and you can probably see as I was doing that, the total was going back down to 0. We wanted it 0. If maybe per se I put 5 in here, this means 5 is unaccounted for. That means I've forgotten to put 5 somewhere. It's just kind of floating around and I need to do something with it. So that's really nice having that there to make sure you've used up all that money you've taken out your float, all that money you've got from your net. Again, using this almost as an example of to why I like the float, because I earn money here. Per se, this week, 10th of January, I make no money as a business owner, or I don't get paid to the end of the month. Oh, good, I still have 617. I can then go here and go, okay, well, weekly, I need this much to survive, 822.75. And then again, we just input all these figures. And now we got 234. Oh, I actually get money here. Let's put 1,000 in here. And so then we've got 900. I'll just stick the whole thing into my float because I have no money. There we go. So where do all these figures go? So we've put all these figures in. So this is just the money in, and then we're sieving it out into different places. So what happens now? Well, if we scroll down and I move my face, it all comes here. So we can see we have a profit loss so far of £2,150 for the month. That's great. All the money has sieved down into these individual budgets. Our virtual bank is at this. Of course, at this point as well, you would have put how much money you actually have in your accounts. And especially when you're starting, of course, you already have money in your accounts. So if you want to actually manually stick some things in, you can just double click on these
sums that I've done and actually just put in a little comma and add the numbers. And I will go through all the sums that I use, and I will put up a link in the description with a Google Drive link to this so that you can download it for yourself. And it works on all the Excel like ones. Excel is my favorite to use, but you can use it on Google Sheets. You can use it on Numbers if you're on a Mac. It will work on anything. And of course, edit it to your own pleasure, but I will show all the different sums I've kind of used to make these things a little bit easier. And if you want to make it from scratch yourself. Right now, let's just explain how everything works. So back down here, don't forget to put your actual how much money you have in the bank here. So let's say in this account I have £1,000. In this account I have £1,000, and then let's just put my ISA. Let's put £150 in the ISA, and this figure here balances the book. So make sure your virtual versus your actual is the same. And you're probably wondering, why is there a virtual versus an actual? That's because of the credit card and any other credit related items you may have in that regard. Because if I spend £35 on my credit card, well, it hasn't actually come out my bank account. So it's going to be, but I want to minus it off something. So I'm actually taking that money from budgets, and I'm not just spending my credit card willy-nilly without actually physically having that money. We might have to do that maybe if we don't have the money at the point, so we've got to use our credit card. But all that does is it makes the budgets go into the minuses. So for say, let's put minus 10 over here. So this is January 2022. You can see here that so far we're in January. I minus 10 off of here. You can see we're in the minuses. I didn't have enough budget. Say I took it from the credit card. Let's put 10 here. Now notice I didn't put minus with the credit card. I just put plus. That helps balance it. As you can see, this has gone back down to 0. And our virtual bank is £10 less than our actual bank. That's because we've spent the money, but of course I'm not paying my credit card off until the end of the month. And so that just helps us do this without having to meddle with these account bits here, showing that I have actually spent money and I am actually taking it from a budget instead of just putting everything on the credit card and not knowing how much money I actually have. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to explain this as simply as possible. But as you can see, we spend, obviously money. Maybe I spend £20 on food. So that comes out of here. Don't forget your minus for when you're actually doing transactions. Maybe then I go somewhere, get a takeaway, let's get a kebab, minus £5. Maybe the kids need new shoes, minus £30. And I did that on the credit card. Voila. Now, of course, I spent that, maybe I took money off this. And so when you check your banking app or however you do that, of course, that's going to match whatever that figure is. So let's just put everything on the credit card for now, just to make our lives that little bit easier. And now let's say I pay off my credit card. It's the end of the month. The credit card gets paid off. What do we do? Well, I can delete this all now. £65 has come out of my actual account, say my Flexi account over here. So let's minus 60 off of that. So that's going to be 940. So I now have £940 left in this account. Of course, sorry, 935. Mind my bad maths. And then, of course, I can now delete this because we've already taken it out of the relevant budget. Well, that money's now come out of my account as a lump sum, 65. Let's delete it. So the credit card resets. We don't have to worry about keeping track of that because we're actually keeping track of it here. And say the end of the month comes as well. To keep this neat and tidy, what I like to do is add it all up onto one line. So this is obviously 25. Of course, this can get a little bit more complicated, but it's easy to just sum and do it in Excel or just get a calculator out. And then I will line off this whole month. I'll get a border. Let's just do that. And just put a line on the bottom. So that's January done. And let's go on to February. And there's February. And then we can do all of February's expenses, etc. And we can see that our profit loss in January is £2,085. We've made money. Yay! And it's as simple as that. Now, another thing I like to do, and it's not as obvious in this. For example, I live with my wife, and she contributes towards the bills. Say she pays me, I don't know, £400 as her contribution, about half of the 865. Well, instead of, it's not gross, it's not net, it's not profit, it's not income I'm making, but it needs to go into the relevant budget because maybe I pay all the bills for the house. Well, what I will do is I will put it in here. So if I put 400 there, if you just get numbers, go up here to this and select. I always do currency. There's accounting in different ones, but currency to me is the easiest. And then if we actually look at the sum, so this is another way of actually seeing how I do it. You can see it's actually a total of up here, that plus anything minus down here. So of course equals out, but I'm also going to put a little comma here and include all of this bit here as well. There we go. And of course, she would have sent that into my bank. Let's just for now put that into my savings account. And so that's how you put money that maybe wasn't income, but maybe a friend sent you, you got some birthday money, your mum sent you 100 quid, whatever. It's a way of dropping money without having to go through the whole system. And you're like, well, what do I do with this? So that's generally what I will do. And that doesn't happen to me often, so I haven't made it proper, but I guess you could line up and make it look a bit neater and tidier in that sense and really move anything where you want. But as you can see, I hope that makes sense. It's quite compact. You think this is an entire year right here. End of the month, you can line it off. So you're just going to end up with 12 lines by the end of the year. You can see patterns with how much food you're spending every month, maybe where you could spend less, or if you're trying to cut down, maybe where if you're going to be saving up for something, you can add another column and put, well, this is going to be saving up for, I don't know, a new car. Maybe just add a new one saying new car. And so you can put aside £5 every month. Or maybe it's not quite working out. Your income's less. You need to actually put less into each budget. It's flexible. It's really handy. And yes, it's micromanaging. And if you enjoy it, great. But as I said, it takes about half an hour a week really to go in and just do all the bits and bobs. Maybe if you get paid once a month, spend an hour once a month doing this. It's really up to you how you use it. Now I'm going to quickly go over the kind of the sums I've used. The very basic one, the most, I guess, complicated, if you want to call it that, is the big balancer at the end. But start to finish, the net is simply the sum of the gross plus the deduction whole. So it's minus anyway. So it's just C5 plus D5. And of course, all these are the same, etc. The float is simply the sum of whatever is in here. Budgets, we already kind of looked at down here. It's just that plus that. And of course, you can actually have that little extra bit there as well. The total, the little balancer book here is, let me get this right, is the budgets plus the floats minus the net. So the net is how much you're shoving in, and then it's getting distributed. Some of it's going into the floats, some of it's going into the budgets. Of course, I tend to stick it all in the floats and then take some out, or you can put some in the floats and then just distribute it without having to go out. If you want to just do that in my head, I think my wife does that spreadsheet that way. She uses the float as emergency money and just forgets this section and just puts it in the float, and she's already worked that one out in the head. I'm a simpleton, it helps with me. So shove everything in and then take what little I need out. And if we go down, the sums, the profit loss is simply the total, because of course you're going to be using quite a bit. Of course, at the end of the month, I will drag that just to that category there because we're lining it off and we don't want to include all the other months unless you want to do an overall profit loss. And so it's that plus our net. Another reason I like doing net, you don't want to do gross because you've already got deductions. So that's that one. Your virtual bank is simply just all these budgets added up. And don't forget your float, because that's also here as well. That's kind of one to the side, but it's still there and very much prevalent. Actual bank is simply a sum of all the different accounts you have. The more accounts, you can easily add more down here. I've put 3 in for this example. And now the actual book balancer here is your actual bank, which we're going to minus off. I put that one in the end. So it's virtual bank plus your credit card minus actual bank. So it should always equal 0. Because of course the credit card, we've spent the money, we've taken it off, but we need it to balance. So trust me. And of course, if you've got other things you take off beforehand. But I hope that all makes sense. It's quite simple when you look at it. Any questions, or if I didn't explain something right, put a comment down and I will reply. If there's enough problems, I can always do another video to kind of maybe go into a bit more detail with different aspects of this. But overall, this just really helped me control my money and really helped me budget and save and not get into debt. And in this day and age, I think all of us could do with a bit of budgeting skills. I know I didn't get taught this in school. My mum does this all on paper. I don't know how she does that, or with just paper and books. But we have the beauty of technology, and I normally do a new book every year. So all I do is go plus, start again, make the changes I need, and then call this, I don't know, 2022. It's fun when you, as I said, I'm at that point where I've got 5 of these, and you can just start to see patterns, see where things need to go up, and mine are constantly changing and flexible. I guess to kind of show you a living, breathing example, let's look at my actual old one. You'll see that things are in a lot different place, but if we drag this over, we can see this is how I started out in 2018. We kind of have our float here and income, and you can see the overall, and you can see bits are changing. I've had different boxes for different things, and it does work, and you can see how it breaks down here. And it's evolved over the years and gotten neater and changed. And we go to 2022. So all this has accumulated to basically this right here, this tool, which once you get your head round, might take you a couple watches, whatever, is well worth it. So this is my, I'm passing on the baton to anyone else to hopefully help them out. As I said, any questions, let me know. But I'll leave it there. I'll see you in the next video.